It's easier for children in parts of Baltimore City to buy a handgun than it is for them to buy fruit or fresh vegetables. We wanted a more intimate one-on-one interview, so my photographer and we traveled up to Aberdeen. For the past several hours, ATF and FBI have been in and out of this home. Jennifer, I see one of the public information officers walking towards us right now, so I just want to make sure. Is there any update that we could get? Okay, no update that we're able to get right now. Dozens of dirt bike riders filled this restaurant parking lot. Some were riding here on Reisterstown Road. Police say the body of 4-year-old Malachi Lawson was found inside a dumpster overnight in northwest Baltimore. In Baltimore, a street sign can serve as a symbol. And in this neighborhood, Mackenzie Elliott Way is the path to a tragic story. Several years ago, 3-year-old Mackenzie Elliott was playing on the front porch of her home. Gunfire erupted. A gang that claimed the toddler's neighborhood off Old York Road began shooting at another gang. A stray bullet hit Mackenzie, killing the 3-year-old.
It's not just the members of these gangs or the rival members, but it's the families who are trying to raise their children on the blocks where these gangs operate. It's many of the small businesses and commercial entities that are trying to make money. They're trying to be entrepreneurial, and they're having to deal with not only the violence out on the street.
Maryland's Deputy U.S. Attorney John Lenzner says gangs are responsible for a large portion of crime in the city. Homicides, shootings, robberies, carjackings, the city's drug problem. Lenzner and his federal and local partners say they took down 2 Baltimore gangs in the past 4 months. The NFL gang, named after the streets in West Baltimore, behind a major narcotics operation leading to the deaths of people in Baltimore.
There were a number of overdose deaths that were charged in the indictment. Also violence against other gangs, witness intimidation, not only in person through force and threats, but also online through social media. And NFL was also responsible for contract killings.
Some victims, everyday innocent people, like those caught in the crossfire of an attempted hit by the ETG Crips.
They were trying to murder rival gang drug dealers, and they accidentally shot 2 innocent bystanders. And that's been a really sad and tragic aspect to the violence in Baltimore. We've unfortunately seen children who've been shot and some killed by stray shootings.
The dismantling of these operations winning the battle, yet the city still losing the war.
I think the data would tell us, no, we're not doing enough, or at least we're not doing enough of the right things.
Former Baltimore Police Deputy Commissioner Jason Johnson says as soon as police get rid of one neighborhood gang, often another attempts to form and take its turf. And in a city with a population of more than 580,000, it's difficult to keep track of them all. So what is the city doing about gangs? A question for Police Commissioner Michael Harrison. As Commissioner, what are you doing to get rid of gangs in the city?
That is something we have been working to build since the very first day I got here. We put it into our crime plan. It's called the Group Violence Reduction Strategy. Some call it focused deterrence, but it targets the subset of individuals committing the most violence. And this mayor and we are aligned in this comprehensive, multidisciplinary approach that pulls in healthcare, faith-based, nonprofits, academics. It's about 2 things. It's about enforcement for those who are committing violence, and it's about also giving them a pathway away should they want out.
More than 300 murders in each of the last 6 years may be evidence the plan isn't working. But the best evidence of the gang problem is Mackenzie. She should be 9 years old today and playing alongside this city street, not named for it. Federal agencies took down the gang tied to Mackenzie's murder about a year ago. Its leader was given a life sentence, and the man convicted in Mackenzie's death serving 25 years in prison. Alexa Ashbo, Fox 45 News. We're hearing from the family of a college professor killed in a New Year's Eve hit and run. The man who pleaded guilty in the case will be awaiting his sentencing from home. I examined what unfolded in court and how COVID-19 is impacting Maryland's judicial system. The last pictures and videos of Tom Gluick are from inside Maryland's shock trauma. Gluick, the victim of a hit and run, as he crossed the street near Towson Town Center on New Year's Eve.
I would say, turn yourself in.
The distant learning professor for UMUC and UMBC died just days after that message to the driver. Traffic cameras and cell phone records leading police to 34-year-old John Marking Jr., who just yesterday pleaded guilty to felony hit and run and misdemeanor manslaughter as part of a plea deal. The recommendation, 6 years in jail, followed by 5 of probation, a decision the judge won't rule on until March. For now, Marking placed on home detention. Shattering news to Gluick's family.
He will spend Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's Eve with his family.
Clearly, judges are using home confinement way more than we ever did before.
How much more? Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger estimates double. The pandemic impacting the judicial system, the state stopping jury trials, circuit court operating for plea deals, district court less serious charges, bail reviews and misdemeanors held virtually, and the backlog mounting.
Hundreds and hundreds of felonies and probably thousands of misdemeanors.
The ramifications of the backlog far-reaching, the financial impact, physical safety. Baltimore City Defense Attorney Warren Brown stressing delays could lead to some cases being dismissed.
The deterioration of the state's case, which means that there might be a dangerous person put back on the street who might not otherwise have been.
Then there's also the voice of the voiceless, victims like Gluick and his family, the emotional impact of the way the pandemic has changed the handling of cases.
He's on home detention. He's allowed to go out for work. But come on, we're all on home detention right now with COVID. So is that really punishment?
Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News. The Port of Baltimore, one of the busiest export ports in the country for cars and trucks, an alluring spot for criminals.
There's a good chance if your car is stolen here in Baltimore, we're going to get it here before it gets out of the country.
City statistics show more than 2,000 cars have been stolen here in Baltimore so far this year, and more than 200 by force. Not all end up here, but some do, and the port is seeing an increase. Already in 2018, workers have discovered 72 stolen vehicles brought to the port by criminals, more than any other year in nearly a decade. U.S. Customs and Border Protection is the first line of defense. Workers x-raying each shipping container. Vehicles are transported overseas.
It's something like an airport baggage x-ray machine, but larger.
Making sure the documents match what's inside.
If it's manifested as 4 cars and we do a scan of it and there's 5 cars inside, obviously we're going to have to look inside that container.
This container was packed here in Greater Baltimore, destined for Africa. But inside...
This is a Can-Am, and then there's 2 Slingshots automobiles, and then there's 2 cars hanging. There's this car here, and there's a car behind it in the nose of the container.
All stolen.
All stolen.
$200,000 in stolen goods, an expensive find for customs and part of a new trend emerging.
So this here is a 2018 Mercedes E300.
This brand new Mercedes.
It's valued at about $65,000.
And this 2018 Ford F-150 pickup truck are both destined for Africa.
These are the types of higher-end luxury cars you're starting to see more of.
Exactly.
Port Director Adam Rotman believes opportunity and demand is contributing to the increase in stolen high-end vehicles ending up here.
It may be what they're looking for at the locations where they're being delivered overseas.
Rotman said stopping this transaction is bigger than Baltimore and its port.
The profits that are being made from stolen autos that transnational criminal organizations are making, the profits support terrorism groups. So, it's really making a difference when we're able to disrupt sort of their profit flow.
As for those who call Baltimore home, protecting their vehicles, time, and money, also priority.
When someone gets their auto stolen, there's that sort of emotional process that they have to go through. And also there's the financial aspect. You got your insurance premiums go up, stuff like that. We're part of this community, and we really take pride in this community. So it's really important for us that we're out here every day protecting our families and protecting our neighbors' families.
So what happens after a stolen car is recovered? Police are called and the vehicle is returned to the jurisdiction it was stolen from. Customs was unable to comment further on cases mentioned so as to not jeopardize investigations. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News. November 15th, West Baltimore. Police flood this Harlem Park neighborhood just minutes after reports homicide detective Sean Suter had been shot.
Our 18-year veteran homicide detective was shot in the head.
From shock trauma, Commissioner Kevin Davis said Suter was with his partner investigating an unrelated 2016 homicide when the detective noticed a suspicious man, approached him, and was shot in a vacant area between two row homes.
An adult African-American male wearing a black jacket with a white stripe.
The commissioner's next update the following day and with a heavy heart.
Today, 18-year veteran homicide detective Sean Suter was pronounced dead.
Police locked down the neighborhood and on Friday, with the help of federal agents, scour vacant homes. The killer not found, only evidence that he was injured. Detective Suter's gun and shell casings also at the scene. Over the weekend, signs of a city in mourning as the reward rises to $215,000 and Detective Suter's body is transported for autopsy. The results shedding new light on the case. Davis revealing more details days later, including Suter's possible attempt to radio for help, signs of a struggle on his clothing, and the recovery of the bullet that killed him.
We now also know that Detective Suter was shot and killed with his own gun.
But possibly the most shocking revelation came when the commissioner confirmed Detective Suter was killed the day before he was scheduled to testify in a federal case involving several city officers.
The wild possibilities that go through people's minds when we all want answers, I just am determined to keep following the evidence.
Just months ago, we obviously had that case, Jacqueline Smith's murder, and we watched as they did a walkthrough at the scene with Tuggle, Gary Tuggle at the time, but we wanted a more intimate one-on-one interview. So my photographer and I, we traveled up to Aberdeen and we were waiting. We saw Keith come home. I knocked on his door. He invited us in, very welcoming, and I want to play a clip for you from that interview.
I feel like I'm stuck in a nightmare, and every day I wake up, I'm trying to wake up and say it didn't happen. But then when I notice that, it's a quiet calm in this house now, that, you can tell my wife's not here.
So that was inside their home in Aberdeen, just days after Jacqueline's murder. And what you're looking at right now, that is a booklet that Keith showed me. We sat down together. He showed us pictures of his first date with Jacqueline, vacations and trips that they took with one another. So when you reflect back and look on that, I could see the tears in his eyes when he would talk about her and the narrative that he had given police as well as us, along with his daughter, Valeria, who said she was also in the car at the time of this alleged attack when Jacqueline evidently wanted to give money to this supposed panhandler. Police now saying that that never occurred, but both said with such conviction that that is what happened. Baltimore police will soon be traveling to Texas to get Keith and Valeria Smith. Here, the father and daughter will face charges related to the murder of Keith's wife. Tonight, Jacqueline Smith's brother told me the family plans to be there every step of the way. Keith and Valeria Smith stand next to one another inside a Texas courtroom. The father and daughter appearing before a judge for the first time since authorities found them in a town 20 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border. And just one day after Baltimore police revealed investigators believe they killed Keith's wife, Jacqueline Smith, not a panhandler, back in December.
The story just never sound right, and I was never sold on it.
Tonight, Jacqueline's brother told Fox 45 he never believed Jacqueline was killed by a panhandler. Keith Smith told police his wife was stabbed by a man after he stopped their car in East Baltimore so she could give a woman who appeared to be holding a baby and a sign asking for help some money. Keith's daughter, Valeria, was also in the car during this alleged attack.
The information and the evidence points to it was not a panhandler.
Baltimore police wouldn't discuss what that evidence was, nor what investigators believe was the motive in the killing.
I don't really care about the why. I just care about justice being served.
In court, Keith and Valeria Smith were denied bail and waived their extradition hearing. Jacqueline's brother said he looks forward to their day in court here in Baltimore.
The only risk that Jackie ever took was a risk to achieve higher education, a risk to perform at the highest level at her job, a risk to make sure that her two boys were well cared for and educated. Those were the only risks that she took. She didn't put herself in situations where her life would be in danger or anything like that, you know. Unfortunately, what happened to her, she took a risk on love.
Piecemeal here, like a jigsaw puzzle. Start with a little paint.
Kimberly Sheridan finds purpose in her art.
That's why I like oils. I can dawdle with them a little bit. I have to do this.
A purpose that deepens as the sound of police whistle through her home here in Baltimore. It's an all too common noise, one prompting the artist to put paint to canvas.
Sometimes I really, really regret never having known them.
A mother and daughter.
The mother's name is Shanette Neal. The daughter's name is Justice Allen.
Who just months ago were shot and killed while inside their home in West Baltimore.
Two beautiful women, not even safe in their own kitchen.
Painted beside the women is another family member who was also murdered in the city.
So who's going to want to carry on? I will. I'll carry on. I'm happy to carry on.
With each dab of paint, each stroke of the brush, Sheridan creates a window into their lives.
And what were they like when they were at their happiest? When they were most relaxed? What would they be doing if they were still here? This is so because it's not enough to say the name. Why not meet them face to face?
This is how Sheridan is raising awareness about Baltimore's violence.
There are now 167 portraits. Mackenzie Elliott, 3-year-old, was playing on a neighbor's steps when the drive-by happened.
The faces of murder victims.
Carter Scott is the youngest Baltimorean.
A visual representation of the fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters the city is losing.
And see another and another and another. It's going to wear people down.
The portrait is also meant to bring peace to families of these victims, a symbol their life mattered.
You will now go back to the family from who it belongs to.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Last May, Dominic Carter lost Aaron Palmise, who was like a son to him. The 23-year-old was shot and killed in South Baltimore.
Aaron lived with me and my wife for some years, and we pushed for him to get through school. And then, you see him, you see him graduate, you're like, damn, he's gonna make it. You see him in his rap career and some of the advances he made, you're like, oh man, he's gonna make it. And, unfortunately he didn't, but, very close.
Carter, amazed by the detail of the painting. Aaron loved motorcycles, hanging out at Carter's tattoo shop, and tattoos.
Right here?
Specifically, the one Carter gave him of his daughter.
The paintings and the way that Kim depicts them gives you a window into their life of who they were.
I'm trying to transform grief from helpless bitterness to something positive.
Sheridan is admittedly overwhelmed by the number of homicide victims left to paint, but vows to not stop until the killings do.
I'm in it for the long haul. You're stuck with me. I'm not going anywhere.
As for the painting of Aaron, he's back where he belongs.
He'll be right there with us every day.
In Carter's tattoo shop.
It'll hang high in our shop next to all the other artwork.
He's home. He's home, yeah.
Alexa Ashwell.
That's pretty dope, actually.
Chances are, right now, your social media feeds are filled with old people or friends and family who have downloaded FaceApp and shared what their older self might look like down the road. But is it really all fun and games?
You gave the organization unfettered access and rights to your image. So the second you did that, you've given them the ability to sell it, use it, do whatever they want with that image. You have no rights. So you you clicked that away immediately.
So how risky is this? A local tech expert points out everyday apps we use have similar privacy guidelines, but there's an added level of concern with FaceApp given the political landscape with Russia.
Different governments, airports, stadiums are starting to use facial recognition from a surveillance perspective. So to think about how you could leverage the facial data to trick systems, create crimes, you know, like we could sit here and talk forever about the different uses of face, but it's scary.